Hello, I'm not sure if that's working. I've got OBS is giving me weird errors. No, that's probably me. Oh, there I am. Okay. So hopefully this is live. OBS. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to turn that off so that hello. And I'm going to turn this up a little bit and set it to my audio up here. Sorry, I don't normally stream the desktop audio to the stream, but I need to for this, for what I'm about to do here. So give me 1 second. Monitor and output. Okay, so that should have been coming out. Okay, in that case, I guess I'm done. So, and one more thing, I was just gonna post this to the Godot streaming channel since they have a streaming thing on their Discord. So, where's my chat? Okay, thankfully nobody's watching. And probably should have just waited about 2 minutes to start this. Sorry. Here we go. Stream. Working on a programmer's video editor. Yeah, Godot. Audio terminal video editor for voiceovers on a terminal. For terminal voiceovers, yeah. Terminal editing. Terminal editing voiceovers in terminal REPL. There we go. How about brainstorm? Cobbling together a programmer's video editor in Godot for editing voiceovers in terminal REPL. Okay. So if not necessarily watch, maybe somebody has ideas and tell me what stupid things I'm doing. Whatever. Okay. Don't know why that. Okay. So that's enough of that. So yeah, I had originally planned to do this session making a like so okay, so let me back up. Here's what I started with. I have, obviously, if you have watched the stream before, I work on this thing called JPrez, which is a program that lets you make oh, that's messed up. Second. It lets you make presentations, scripted presentations using the terminal. And why it's messed up, hang on a second. Organized today. So yeah, so you can record your keystrokes, and you can have it like play them back and whatnot, and then this outputs your the REPL interactions for you. So you can generate these nice, you know, you don't have to record your typos basically, or you can if you want, but you can choose whether to record your typos, that kind of thing. And then you can include the text of the script that you want to present. So I recorded this video, and it did not go well. I watched it. So I made this, one line man. Second. Of course, my daughter is waking up as soon as I start streaming. Sounds like both of them are waking up. Maybe the stream won't happen after all. Anyway, you can record these. Sorry. Okay. The problem I had is that everything is done in the REPL here, and what I found myself doing, this tool seems to have nudged me into a presentation style that's very different from my normal presentation style. Normally, I talk about what my goals are, and then I do a little bit of coding, and then, like, I don't know. I just, when I recorded this thing, let me actually, it came out looking really nice on the screen. But I had a couple of problems. So I use this tool called Dscript, which is amazing. And so what Dscript, right where my face is right where. Yeah. So what Dscript does is it lets you take a video recording or an audio recording, and it generates a transcript for you, and then it gives you a nonlinear editor, like a video timeline down here, and you can use it to edit your video, and you can also edit the text to get to edit the video. So really cool. And then you can also like generate the subtitles. From this you can now publish to when the edited version of this goes to YouTube, like on my other channel, my main channel, if I were ever to do that, I would take this video, plug it into Dscript. It will transcribe the whole thing with some number of mistakes, and then you can go through and edit it and correct it. You can correct both the transcription, or you can do this overdub thing, and you can correct the audio. You can either record a new audio clip, or you can you can actually, it makes like an AI machine learning model of your voice, and you can actually have it talk. So it's really cool. It's really cool when you're doing something like what I'm doing now, where you're speaking live, and then you want to record it, and then you want to make a transcript of it. And so for like many of the videos I've been doing, almost all the videos I've been doing lately, that's the model that I use. But I also have this other set of videos where the ones that I'm actually, what I'm just talking about is like what I use when I'm building JPrez, right? Like I come in and I do these coding sessions, and I just talk while I'm editing, the actual code for JPrez. But when I'm working in JPrez, the idea was that I would start writing these videos, like I would script out the stuff. So I actually started by recording my interactions with the REPL, and went back and filled in this text. So this is like the script that I want to say. And so one problem I had, two problems. One is that it's just, that workflow seems to have nudged me into this. I don't know what, like I don't want to play the video, but let's see. if you go to the main part, it's I don't know, like it's just very low level. And I think the tool itself has led me to this kind of presentation style where uh, I don't know how to explain it. I don't want to just play the video, but it's just hard to follow. It's like very low level and deep, and it just has a completely different feel from the videos that I've made that I think are good. So I think this is probably one of the nicest looking videos in terms of like the REPL interaction and it looks the way I want it to look, but the audio just the spoken word just doesn't come out right. It's just very, very low level. Basically, I'm describing, because I started with the REPL and I'm just describing the words that are in the REPL, and somehow I lost track of there's not like enough big picture stuff. So that's one issue with it, and the other issue is that because I'm using Dscript here, I recorded the screencast, and in JPrez you have the ability to kind of scrub back and forth in the timeline, and so let's say I'm doing this. I can press F9 here, and I'll play this line, and it's like editing this part. So that line in there is talking about how I transformed this word viewmat to the word VM basically, and also I had put on the previous line I had put this thing instead of this load viewmat here. So this one line in J generates a Mandelbrot set if you're using the graphical, or regardless of whether you're using the graphical thing. But I have made this other thing that puts the output of viewmat directly in the terminal. So when I press N to go forward, that shows the output here. So it's directly in my terminal, and so I'm describing that in this line here. The goal of JPrez is now I can make a couple takes of reading these things. So then we change viewmat to VM, and also we have fewer pixels to work with. So I'll reduce these two numbers to change the resolution. Okay, whatever. Maybe that was a good take. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But the idea is I can kind of read it, and then I can press the button, and it'll play it, and I'm recording that on the screen. So the problem is that when I go to edit that recording in Dscript, it takes the video that I've made. And let's go to that exact line if I can find it. So I'm just going to play this.
Executes right to left. So this part on the right is just loading a tool called viewmat that lets you view matrices as images. Normally, it pops up in a window like you just saw. So then we change viewmat to VM. And also we have fewer pixels to work with, so I reduce these two numbers. Other than that, it's the same image. The lowercase I colon generates a range of numbers in both the positive and negative directions. The asterisk is just plain old multiplication. So J dot goes between two numbers to create a complex.
Yeah, that's enough of that. I just kind of jumped in, right? So that's what I'm talking about, the style, but also I don't know if that was a good example or not, but just at certain points in here, the chopping, the cutting, the editing of the audio distorted all the video because I'm cutting it, and I was talking over the playback as it happened, the animation as it happened. It means that when I went to edit the audio, it cut the video, right? And so now I have to like I almost have to repair it, right? And which is not what I wanted at all. So I've got this thing where on the one hand I want to get a nice clean take of the audio so it's smooth and doesn't have me stumbling over my words like this. And then on the other hand, I want the scripted version of the animations to play. Otherwise, what was the point? Like, right? So I have that issue, and sometimes like if the edit is kind of like large, you want to break it into steps, and you want to say a little bit while it's running, and then maybe pause for a minute, and then type the rest of the line and that kind of thing. And JPrez can do that, but hey, could you turn that down a little bit, please? I'm recording. Yeah, that's always nice. I don't know if you can hear that or not. That's wow. Okay. Give me a minute. It's very distracting. Earplugs. I don't think the mic picks it up. If it does, well then watch video. I have a very small apartment and lots of people in the apartment. So. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. That's why I normally stream when it's quiet here, but lately it's just not quiet. I'm sure I had some point to this video. I'm making a okay. Just give me a minute here. So I talked about the one problem being the chopping up the video. The second problem is the style that it kind of nudged me into. So I want to so even in this thing, like I just jump in and I'm starting to talk about this whole line, and it's a lot of low level detail. So recently what I did is I went into Godot here and I made this this kind of like map of this line of code. So this is really just a simple Godot scene that has some keyboard binding set up. This is like a rich text control that I generated from JPrez. That tool I showed you. And then I have these just little scenes that they're basically just rectangles and text highlighting this code. So the idea was that this would pop up over the scene. Like literally, I would just put this in as like I would record this as a video layer, and then either as just individual images or whatever. And so then when I'm talking about the first part, I say, okay, well, this is what this is, and then we go on here and we talk about this, and so it would be like on the screen, and like you would see in context what we're doing. And then maybe it would also kind of like serve as an intro. Like this would become the title intro, and maybe maybe full screen, then maybe it shrinks down or something comes up. I haven't decided yet. But even then, like just putting this out over the audio that I've recorded it, or as I've recorded it now, there's just not enough context. And I really want to give like more context and motivation, and like, okay, here, like I never say like I'm going to make the complex plane. It's just like I'm just like starting here and just building this thing, and it didn't come off. I don't like that way, the way that I presented it, basically. So I'm gonna re-record that. But in order to get around so now I have this thing, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I've got to now edit. I've got to get my audio right, smooth and clean. I put this on a second channel because I don't like wasting people's time with the way I'm talking and trying to get my words out. And I'd rather like settle on what I'm going to say and then have the polished version go, and that's why I have a second channel. Thank you for those of you who are patient enough to listen to me ramble this way. So I want to edit the audio, and I want to edit the record, to play back the recordings that I've recorded from the from JPrez, and then I want to intersperse these titles and whatnot. So I've also got kind of like a standard title set. Let me see if I can find it. Also made in Godot. I actually ported this to DaVinci Resolve recently, and I don't know that it was easier to do it in. I think it was actually easier to do it in Godot, because you got a nice scripting language. So if I can pull that up. So titles, I think. Slides. So this is just a completely non-interactive thing, but you run it. I think it's going to pop up a window in the wrong place. Oh no, it's here. Okay. So it does this. It does this nice little animation. And so what I did was I just recorded this, like using OBS, using just like I'm doing now, and then I just chopped this video into pieces, and I used those as the titles of like my Sandpiles video many years ago, 2 years ago now. But the basic idea is you just start out, you say what your titles are, and then it does the animation for you, and it types it out and whatnot. So I have kind of like a standard library of these things. So now that I'm doing like all this stuff to like enhance my videos in Godot anyway, most of the time, like I'm not, I have, again, two kinds of videos. Sometimes, like right now, I'm on the screen and you can see my mouth moving. And whenever you do a recording and you can see the person's mouth moving, it's very hard to like, to edit that, right? Like you can overdub it, but then it looks like like a badly dubbed film or something like that. So you like kind of ideally, this when you record something live, you would put the voiceover in like a completely different. You would record them in different takes and then composite them, right? So you don't, so you don't have to. What's an example? Well, I mean, just like maybe you need to see whatever's underneath my face here, right? Or my face here right now. I can. Or okay, I'm pointing at something, and I can see in OBS that my face is covering that picture, is covering that the cursor, the mouse cursor is underneath, things like that. And it would be nicer. Also, it's I can't cut away. I can't move this after the fact. This is baked. This circle is baked into the recording, so I have to get it right on the first take. Or on the take that I give, and it would be nicer if you could do that in two separate shots. So ideally, when you're recording, you would have like ideally this would record in like 4K or something like that, and then like stream one little section of it that was like the composited shot that was streamed, but then you would still be able to take like the. Like for example, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but if I yeah, you can see that I've got a green screen behind me. So it would be nice, like a tool like DaVinci or whatever, the editing tool DaVinci Resolve actually does a much better job of green screening than of cutting out the green screen than OBS does. Like here you can see my hair is kind of, I can point at it or not, but oh no, I guess not. But you can see like there's holes in my hair, and I'm kind of like, if I hold still, it's kind of like wiggly and whatnot, and that's much less prevalent with if you're editing in like a real video editing tool that can take time to render the scene. Oops. Um, yeah. So it would be it would make sense to have the stuff on the screen and then you record it and then have like a record. Like it would be nice if you had like a giant, So this is recording in 1080p. So it'd be nice if like the upper left hand corner was like the composited thing. Um, and then we stream that and then actually record like over here like the full screen green thing and then the full uh like the clean version of just the text editor, just the terminal or whatever I'm working on, and then the idea would be that then you could go back and move those pieces later and uh recomposite things as you want. And if you wanted to zoom into the full screen or even replace a chunk of video, um, you could be able to do that in post, fix it in post. It's much harder when you just have the composited stream recorded. I'm getting off track here though. Except that to say that for scripted videos, I kind of want to do more of that. So one thing is that I stopped for scripted videos. I generally don't put my face on the camera, or if I do, I composite it later. And that, which is why we record the keystrokes, so I don't have to think about typing while I'm talking and that kind of. Anyway, this is all long and rambly now. Point is that I kind of want the opposite of this. So this takes your audio and generates the text, but I already have the text for my other videos. So I love this. I want to keep doing this for my live streams. Dscript, that workflow. But for JPrez, when I'm making a scripted video, I would like to do a couple things. I'd like to write the script like long, before I ever turn the camera on. I want to have the script ready to go, run through a few rehearsals and that kind of thing. And maybe even ideally not have to turn on the camera at all, and just record audio. So, in fact, I would like to get into kind of a workflow where, some people don't want to watch your video. They'd much rather they'd much rather read an article or whatever, which is fine. And I've got an article right here, so it would be nice if I could write this as an article with the code snippets in here, generate a blog post from this, an interactive screenplay where you could see the code, not screenplay, but a blog post where you could see the code embedded in here and see the output, but also play back the recording of the of that chunk of the macro playback, of the typing playback. And then I also, what tends to happen is that I will say, I'll take this line here and I'll say, like, I'll read it. Okay. Lowercase I colon generates a range of numbers in both positive and negative directions. Okay, great. But if I'm just reading that without thinking about why am I saying that here? Well, I'm really talking about this. So maybe I really want to like highlight this and say, so this lowercase I colon generates a range of numbers in both the positive and negative directions, and I want to show it. So it's like, okay, that, and which is basically the same, but sometimes I wind up like mispronouncing a word, lowercase I colon or something. I say it's stupid. There we go. There's my stupid spammer again. Go away, spammer. I blocked this person. Thanks, YouTube. Block this person. I don't know why. YouTube will like cut every comment off of my. So I talk about J. Any comment that has ever been posted that refers to the J website, YouTube cuts it. I can Report this guy. I'm going to remove this. Put the user in timeout. Report them. Both of this stuff. Oh, 300 seconds. I want them removed. Man, that's annoying. Okay, well, whatever. I don't really expect people to watch this show, but yeah, like live, right? You know, I post them live so that people want to watch the streams. Otherwise, they spend weeks in. I was probably talking. Oh no, it's not because. All right. Well, at least now I know what to do when they come back. Okay. So what was I talking about? Rambling about stuff. Let's get jumping into the code. Or not code, but like so. These are the features that I want. This is a program called Vue. Nothing to do with the JavaScript library. The visual understanding environment. So these are the tools I was thinking of getting. Recording audio, playback audio. I found that there's a demo project that comes with, or that is provided with Godot or by Godot, or anyway, there's a tool for that. That allows you to do these things. So what I want to do. So let me back up again. This thing takes one long video recording and then it makes a timeline. I've looked at the database for this, and basically, or it's like a a JSON file. So all this cutting, it's one long audio file, but with a separate text file or database or whatever that says the starting and start. It basically has a chunk of JSON or whatever that says, here is the text that corresponds to that chunk of audio or that timeline. It has a start time, an end time, and then the text, and then you can, and then whatever, like make this twice as loud, or you can configure the stuff like that in there. And so I need that same kind of thing. And it's possible to take like it's possible to take that and like read that out of the database and import it into something. But I think I want to generate that myself. I think I just don't want to use Dscript until the very end. Like basically, what Dscript does for me is it gives me the editing ability after the fact, and it gives me the video editing. It's a full video editor, so you can put titles and all that kind of stuff in there. And like I said, I love it for these live streams because I can clean up. It's one button to clean out all the ums and the ums and ahs and whatnot in a whole an hour video. It's 2 clicks. and it just makes things run a whole lot smoother. It also gives you nice. It can clean up the sound, the audio. It does so many nice things. And so I want to continue to use it, but and maybe even continue to use it like as a post processing step for audio or whatever. But I feel like as I said, I want the opposite. Like I've already got the text. I don't need a transcript. I've got the screenplay, right? So what I need is to sync is this step right here, the link the audio to the text. I need to be able to record that audio, and I need, basically for every line of the file, I want to have a corresponding audio file that is linked to it, and so that basically I want to record like an ID for every one of these lines. It could be a timestamp. I don't know exactly. But I like I really like this user interface model where you've got the text and you've got the timeline. And then you've got the screen, right? You can rearrange this however you want, but I really want this, but for like the forward direction in time, where you're designing the thing, you're authoring rather than transcribing, because the authoring step shifts a whole lot of the burden to you, right? So here you hit a button and the computer translates your audio, or translates it transcribes it for you, and then you can go back and edit and clean it up. But I already know, as I said, I already know what the text is, and what I want to do is I want to take the text and I want to try several different recordings until I get one that I like. And so what ideally would happen is I would have this interface, and I would be able to press a button as I'm, as my cursor. Sorry, the UI is still a little weird here. This is treated as one. These two widgets are treated as one widget, and so you never get a like this never turns gold. The focus never appears to be there, and it really ought to. That's a the keyboard and focus stuff is something that's been on my list to clean up for quite a while now. Kind of like still one of the big design problems. But what I'm kind of thinking is it would be nice if you press a button right here, and then it would record an audio file. So press a button to record. Now I record. Lowercase I : generates a range of numbers in both the positive and negative directions, because that's what I want my, but however you want it to be recorded, with however you want it to be presented in your presentation voice or whatever. And then you record that audio, and it would link it to the file name. And so then you would be able to press the button here, and you would be able to hear it. So then though, you've got the cutting and stuff, right? So by cutting, I mean the timings, basically. Like that would be a single audio file. It has no visual aspect to it. I mean, it could be a video file. Like it could be me recording full screen or whatever. Could be audio or video file, really. I'm thinking audio right now, but I could be doing the same kind of thing and get a clean cut of myself in a that winds up in one of these little circles here or whatever. But so record audio or video when you press that button, right? It looks like if I'm okay. So I'm living in a terminal here. I'm talking over secure shell. So the machine on which that is currently running is not in any way connected to my microphone, right? It's across who knows what part of the world that machine is in. I don't even remember. I don't remember even what country it's in. So the idea was, I was going to make a terminal. I was going to make, okay, I'll just record this and talk over like a WebSocket or something, and because Godot has yeah, in Godot, right? So I'm going to make a terminal in Godot, connect to it. And that's what I was planning to do this morning. And it was going to be a nice quick thing because it's right, easy to make a terminal, right? You just, I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's not difficult work. You could easily make a grid of a two-dimensional array on the screen of just like single labels or whatever with rectangles behind them or something. It shouldn't be that hard. And so I was going to do that for this session, but then I discovered this. I discovered this tool right here. Maybe I should just bring this down. Godot XTerm, which is a really, really cool. You can check this out yourself, but it's very, very cool. You can integrate this whole terminal control into all kinds of you can put it into your Godot scene, and you can run it in a web browser or whatever. And it also supports this notion of this tool called. Back up here. I know I'm rambling. Again, am I not? It also allows you to record using this tool called asciinema. Asciinema, I believe it's pronounced. Which is a text-based format. Basically, it's just it's kind of like JSON, where you've got, I don't know if you can see the text of this, but this is not a video. This is I don't know how to see it, but let's see. Extern. So here's the Godot XTerm project. I downloaded it, ran it on my computer, and so now you can run ASCII cast. This is a Godot window, and it's playing back this session. Now, what the session actually looks like, the recording actually looks like, is right here. This is that exact same file, and you can see it's. I don't know if that's readable, but I'll make it bigger. Get how to make this bigger. I always do it by mistake. Oh, there we go. Just mouse wheel, control mouse wheel. So it's a timestamp, O for output, and then the output that you want, and that can include escape codes, which are this is the 24-bit color escape codes. So like everything that I use is already working because JPrez is talking to an XTerm that is 256 colors. So there is no reason why I couldn't record my screen with this asciinema. Let me see. There's a fact that how to pronounce it. Asciinema, ASCII and cinema. So what I'm thinking then is that I have JPrez generate this, something like this, but possibly. So you can actually have this tool. It says one of the other facts was something about. Does it record the passwords I type? And the answer is no, but you can have it record, or not by default, but you can have it record your standard in. And so you could have it record the timestamps of your key presses. So I mean, in theory, you could everything that JPrez does to record, or at least the recording part, could be done by a tool like this. In fact, JPrez's internal data structure looks very, very much like this, except doesn't have the middle thing. It's just here's the text, here's the timestamp, and here's the text, except it's input text. So I believe O stands for output, and then there would be an I if you had input. So my thought was that when you're pressing when you're doing this, like once the text is done, once the screenplay is ready to go, then at the very end you could come back and and just keep pressing F9 and get all these recordings, and then you could generate a timeline in Godot, right? So take this data structure that gets output. I mean, this text, turn it into a data structure. So a list of these things, and then every time you see an I where the input is the F9 key, that could mark the start of a scene, like a video clip. So in a video editor, you have these things down at the bottom. This was a one long audio or one long video file, but as you cut it, you get what they're called clips, and so each rectangle is called a clip. And generally, what you see is this is a screenshot. So you got the audio here, the audio waveform, then you got a screenshot. It's hard to tell that it's a screenshot because there's nothing on the screen. It's all black. But as you go further, like here, you should be able to see the thumbnail of the screenshot. And I think this is fairly easy to do in Godot. Maybe not this part where the text of the like this is advanced magic stuff where the audio transcription is tied to the waveform. I don't need that. I don't need that for what I'm doing. What I want is to be able to have this timeline, have the audio clips in a timeline, have this on the screen, and be able to sync between the timeline rectangles and the text the text parts. And so this may be obvious or not, but so the problem I have is that JPrez is a program that is running in J on a machine that may be far away. It could easily be on this machine, right? But it's not running inside of Godot, and so there's a barrier between the Godot data structures and the J data structure. There needs to be some kind of communication mechanism, which I think is going to be WebSockets. So I think that I want to basically have this be a live session. I can start by running, like either running this asciinema thing or just taking the same concept and have JPrez generate that. Either one is perfectly reasonable. And if I generate one of the cast file, I could just stick it directly into this Godot XTerm. Like this is literally just looking at this file and playing it when I do this. There's press ESC to exit and so on. Exactly what it's doing. So it's just a timestamp on every key, and that's equivalent to what to what JPrez is doing. It's just there's no intermediate data structure. So JPrez can generate this file easily. And so then I was thinking, okay, then I'll have I don't even have to press F9. I could just insert something in here that indicates that this is where you cut, and then I could have a bunch of these little clips, or I could just generate a bunch of clips, right? Although you have to, as you play back, you want to remember what was on the screen at any given time. There's no undo here, right? There's no undo in this thing. And so what happens is it's like video encoding in the first place. You don't send the entire picture on every frame. You send the changes, and so these are changes, and so the tool as it stands now doesn't have a undo button, and so but JPrez does. JPrez has that time traveling system, so you could easily JPrez could do that part for me. If I wanted it to, if I were connected live to the JPrez process, I could put the timeline cursor, the video cursor, at any point in time and have JPrez calculate what the screen ought to be, what ought to have been on the screen at that time, without having to replay the entire thing from the start, because JPrez has snapshots, or JPrez has like rendered snapshots of this kind of stuff, and it knows how to do that. And of course also JPrez, well, like, you know, what I'm thinking is have this serve act as a WebSocket server. So J has this WebSocket server add-ons net WebSocket that you can do a completely headless WebSocket server. Godot can connect to it, and then it would be able to send the. I'm thinking basically send. Where to go? Send a data structure that looks like this. So each update would be like a timestamp and the letters or whatever, or just send chunks of text or whatever. But then even further, be able to communicate back and forth with JPrez and basically make an API for JPrez that would allow Godot to script it, so that when I press buttons in Godot, I can say, "Hey JPrez, line 7 of your outline." How many windows open? You know, this line right here, whatever this is, wherever the cursor is, this is now associated with file, you know, timestamp dot you know, wave, a wave file or an audio file. And then so now on the Godot side, that would have the local file. The local file system would have. Again, I'm still picturing this remotely, but now, you know, I could just as easily run this in the you know, a JProcess on the local machine. But the point is they're talking over web servers, so I'm going to call the JProcess remote, regardless of even if it's on the same machine, right? But the remote JProcess handles all the logic of the editing and whatnot, the business logic, and the terminal, the Godot terminal, is responsible for displaying it. But then there's also stuff like this. So then, you know, Godot ships with a tool for building animations, like interactively. And Godot is written in Godot, so I think it's actually reasonably possible, or it should be possible to expose the animation objects that come with Godot and use them to do this kind of like timeline stuff. And so you click animation at the bottom here, you get the you know, an editor. I don't know if you can actually put an editor inside of your game like this, but you can, the underlying data model can definitely go in there. And it's probably not too hard to recreate this as a in-game system, right? Because again, the entire UI that you're looking at here is written in the Godot system. So it would not surprise me at all if it's easy to. Well, it would surprise me a little if it's trivial to do this, but I don't think it's going to be too hard to get a animation controller set up to render the timeline, right? So the timeline is a grid, right? It's like a Gantt chart almost. You got start times, you got end times. Maybe you're not seeing this, but where's my No, I did all the animations programmatically here. I don't have a good example of this. I'm not going to make it. Takes like a couple steps, and I don't remember exactly how you do it. But you create an animation. It's a timeline. It looks very much like what you see in Dscript here. But so then you can also like insert things. So you can insert in a video editor. You have layers, and so you want to insert a title here, and whatever. So now this text is above the thing, is above your video, and now you say, well, how I need this. And then you can say, well, at what times does it appear? And then you have properties like what's the font and what's the shadow color. And so I think this can be that kind of thing. But that allows you to break out of the notion that this is just a console application. The console is great for when I'm actually doing work, and you're showing the person, the viewer, how do you do this at home? How do you do this on your computer? And they're just going to use a terminal, basically, right? Probably. But often as a presenter, like there's all kinds of things I want to put on the screen. I've talked a couple times in previous streams and about a goal stack, about having something on the screen that indicates like what's the context of what I'm doing, like what is the problem I'm trying to solve, what's the sub problem that I'm trying to solve, what's the current task I'm working on, and actually show it almost like a like a stack of things right here on the screen, like an overlay kind of thing. If this live stream were ever to become popular, it might make sense to have a chat on a screen or something. Record that. Somebody's here. Hang on a second. Hey, sweetie. You want your phone? I'm recording a video. You want to be on the you want to do your phone? I'll come play in a minute. What else you want? Okay. Goodbye, sweetie. Phone is probably not the best. I don't know if that's the best parenting. Probably not. Got Khan Academy on there. Sometimes she uses it. Sometimes she watches YouTube. Anyway. All right, I'm rambling. I have got I need to think through like how the protocol wants to work. But so I guess this is the drag and drop of the rectangle. So this is easy. I believe this is easy. I haven't tested it. I mean, I've tested it by running the demo. I haven't tested it by running like my own version of sorry, of a cast file. But I think I could generate a cast file, and I could look into the code and see what generate a cast file, generate from JPrez. So generate that from JPrez. Link audio to text. So I haven't actually talked about the audio stuff. So this is what I've seen so far. This is what it gave me so far. So hello, testing 1 2 3. Hello, testing 1 2 3. Let's see if that plays back. Hello, testing 1 2 3. Hello, testing 1 2 3. Perfect. That actually does not work so well. Godot 4 just came out yesterday, and so if you want to download this thing, it's audio mic record demo. It's on the asset library, but it only seems to work it seems to work in Godot 3. It does not seem to work so well in Godot 4 3.4. I reported the bug, and it seems like it's a change in the engine, and they asked me to go back and track down and see if I could find where it broke, at what version of the engine it broke. I have not yet done that. But basically, it recorded, and then the screen just this little screen just went white and said you're not responding. but you can save it. Okay, so now this it saves it to some weird spot on your hard drive. I wonder if you can actually save it to like file the temp or something like that. Go that way. Oh, you can. Let's see if it worked. I did not save that. I think you need 2 of these though. That didn't work. Is that not how a file URL looks? I'm not sure how the drive looks in a. Let's drag something from the file system. What log.txt is. Here's my little logo. C:temp. Okay. So, oh, three things. Interesting. Okay, so let's try it. Wave. I don't know. Maybe you cannot do this. It did not save it. It says it saved it, but it didn't save it. Nope. All right. Well, that's something to look up. It doesn't matter. I mean, the user thing is fine. It's just that weird. It goes to this weird little directory. But I guess I could have a button that says like open this directory or something. It doesn't really matter. It just, ideally ideally you'd be able to save this into a directory that is like under version control and easily accessible and not hidden away like 9,000 levels deep on your path. So let's see if you can do that. Godot write to arbitrary file path. File path in Godot project. Maybe there's a permission or something you have to set. Mm-hmm. By the way, I was talking about having Godot, duplicating this. The other option is you can have components in Godot that operate inside the editor live, and so maybe the play button generates a game that just plays your animation with all the audio put together, and you could actually use this along with custom components. So it could be an editor time control for Godot as well. And that's one reason I really like Godot, is that it's extensible both in with the same language. You can use languages, right? You can write Dscript to edit Godot itself and create like custom tools, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's actually an interesting thought. Okay. Where it saves is not terribly important, right? Just that it would be nice to be under version control. Okay, so there's no reason it can't be under version control, like even if it's forced to be under this thing. Okay. So these are like things I need to make happen. I've just demonstrated that I can link to record audio, playback audio, so that's done. Being able to link the audio to the text. I guess I need to come up with a scheme for that, and that probably involves, WebSockets to communicate. So communicate. Basically, what I want to do, like talk to objects, talk to J objects. And so okay, so this is something I should kind of like think through, because even back up even further from like excuse me, this particular application. One of my goals for this series of, it's not a goal for the series of videos, but it's one of my goals that I will probably be covering in this series of videos, because I record what my development efforts, right? Is this idea of this little virtual machine called B4. Currently, it's at Sabrin B4. And there's like 10 versions of this, but the most recent one is under the J directory. B4 is a virtual machine. It's a fourth interpreter, and it has like it's not a fourth interpreter. Sorry, it's the bytecode language itself is inspired by the language fourth. So it's a bytecode, but most of the codes are just like pass through. So there's the ASCII text handler. So the low bytes, the bytes between 0 and 128, the ASCII character set. Everything from space on up to delete, the last, the visible ASCII characters, those just like don't do anything. They're processed by the system, but they basically just like write to memory inside the virtual machine, or get piped through, or there's like some generic handler for those. And then like the control codes all do something special. So like control code 0 tells you what to do with all those ASCII characters. And then control code 1 through 31, which includes tab, new line, and just, there's like 32 of those total, 0 through 31, are pluggable. And so you have a dictionary of 32 verbs or 32 functions that you can define. And then the high bits, it's based on the UTF-8 model, where like there are certain, when you want a marker, you have a marker that says this is a 4-byte sequence that's going to be a that's going to construct a 4-byte, a number that would take 4 bytes, or 3 bytes, or 2 bytes. So there, the first like 6, so 0 through bytes 0 through 127 are the ASCII character set, and then bytes 128 through whatever that plus 64 is are not used in Unicode as the first byte of a sequence. They always follow the next 60, not 60. It's not quite 64. It doesn't go all the way to 255. Like the last couple bytes are two. Just, I know I'm rambling, but it's kind of neat. It's this thing, right? You got this table, and basically this is your ASCII character set, and then all these white ones indicate that they're like the first in a UTF-8 sequence. The first byte of a character sequence has to be one of these blue ones, in which case it's a 1-byte sequence, or one of these white ones, indicating it's a multi-byte sequence. And these are always the last byte of the multi-byte sequences. So you construct some number by multiplying. These tell you like it's almost like a polynomial or something. So these are like the coefficients of the third byte, the fourth byte, the third byte, the second byte, and also the second byte. And then this is the least significant byte, and this is the least significant byte. So this is like the constant added at the end. And so you never use these. You always use these as the last in a multi-bit sequence. So that means that as you're reading a UTF-8 string, this will never be just on its own. It will always be preceded by some kind of escape, one of these, which means that if you encounter it, that's an error in UTF-8, but in B4, that's where you put the byte codes of the machine. So you have 64 potential byte codes here that are like built into B4, and then these 32 32. So ASCII 32 is space, but 0 through 31 are control characters. Those are pluggable byte codes. And so that acts as your like dictionary in fourth, right? So these gold ones, I actually haven't filled them all in, so some of them are like reserved for future use, but the instructions are all gold, and then they're all in this range. And then some of those instructions include the ability to define a word that is in a dictionary that has 32 slots. And so you define what these opcodes do. And so it's a pluggable opcode system. And then you have the generic thing, which can be like when you define opcode 0. Opcode 0 is always a no op, but you can and that's hard coded. So 0 is always a no op, but when you define operation 0, that's what fills in the handler for what happens when you see G and H and L. So you can write your own. So really, the entire ASCII character set is pluggable. But these are these have a special syntax in like the assembler, and then these have a default handler, so that the strings are treated so you can just beam your strings down the line and you don't have to escape strings or whatever. You can just, as long as they're printable ASCII characters, and then maybe you just tell like if you need line feeds, just override the line feed handler. I'm completely rambling here. Point is, I have this virtual machine. And the idea of the virtual machine is that it's kind of like a mix of low level and high level. The low level stuff is, push a number onto a stack, add two numbers, arithmetic, that kind of stuff. And then the high level operations are things like it's meant to be hosted. It's meant to be hosted in a inside of another language. So the high level machines are tied to some kind of runtime, and they're meant to be kind of abstract. They're like make a list, make a dictionary, make a, do things that you could do with JSON. It could be like it's meant to be an interface to some high level programming language or environment for scripting something like Godot or a small talk environment, or a web browser or whatever. So you have the low level idea, and then like these 32 bits. Is this 32? Yeah, so 16. Each row is 16. So this top row would be the low level, internal to the virtual machine kind of stuff, and the high level ones are meant to be like runtime stuff. Call a function, foreign function interface for your environment, whatever runtime you plug this into. but kind of like semi-standardized, right? At least I haven't completely nailed this down yet because I focused on these operations and like everything up here, and then of course these actually let you stream Unicode characters through the process Unicode characters, right? So if you pass in a valid UTF-8 sequence, you get a UTF-8 number. Anyway, or you get a UTF-8 character that can then be like written to memory or pass through to another machine or whatever it is. But it's meant to be a very small machine, very I'm rambling again. This isn't this video is not about this machine. But the idea is that I want to have a portable tool set that can live on in lots of different environments. So that if I write my code, if I write some code, I want that code to work top of Firefox in a Chrome plugin, in a like I said, a top of Smalltalk, so Pharo or Glamorous Toolkit or Squeak or something like that, and just be able to take this. It's easy to write code that is portable between systems, between computer systems these days. It's not so easy to write code that you can use from whatever application you're using, because generally portable code is low-level code. Low level from the application point of view, right? You can't. How do I explain it? Like generally, the application goes on top of the low level code, right? You can call a shell script and it will run underneath that in its own little process or whatever. But to be able to use the same code atop, like to be able to use JPrez atop of Smalltalk, like why, to use that interface. Here I've got my console, I've got my macro recorder, I've got all these things, and right now I can only use that in the J console, but in a terminal in the J console. So what I'm talking about today is this idea of having pulling the user interface up into Godot by rendering, taking that same logic and rendering it, and then broadcasting the changes, the ASCII text or whatever, or the escape sequences, and putting that on the screen in one of these nice terminals using Godot XTerm, right? So in that context, it would be connecting over a WebSocket to a JProcess. But then the idea is that eventually I'll have this virtual machine, and I may choose to, I definitely intend to use J as a kind of specification language that gets compiled onto this virtual machine. Like I'm not going to write a complete J compiler, but for individual functions, like some subset of J, I intend to write a compiler to that compiles to this virtual machine that I'm talking about, this B4 thing. So and okay, so then at that point, then you would still need a J interpreter, but to execute J or whatever. But you could just as easily talk to like a Python interpreter or something like that. You would have to write code that was running in the virtual machine that does the syntax highlighting or whatever. But you could move that component of it, the UI framework, up into Godot or something. And the idea is that the virtual machine would have some virtual hardware, one of those pieces of hardware being the terminal. So there, whatever environment I'm going to be in, there should be a terminal, a VT100 style terminal, like this. And in fact, I've implemented that itself in JPrez. So if you can just, you don't even have to have the VT100 terminal. You just have to have the ability to draw characters on the screen. But in addition, I would like a virtual networking piece. And part of the idea is not just to script one application, but to be able to control multiple applications together. Like even right now, God damn, the stupid, our spammer's back. Hide user on this channel. Yes. Report. Remove. Move. There we go. There we go. They're gone now. Until they open some new account and spam me some more. Spammers. I hate spammers. Okay. What was I saying? Yeah. So all of that was just a long, rambly way of saying, you know, I want to start architecting around this idea of having these virtual machines that are communicating with each other. They all have the same spec, but they have some way of communicating. And generally, that's going to be a WebSocket. Just because so many programs offer WebSockets, not all of them do. So that, you know, it could be HTTP, a REST interface or something like that. But WebSocket seems to be the right way to do things. I think, at least for a lot of different cases. You know, they seem to be well supported. A lot of, like, J doesn't even have a very good HTTP client, but it has a really good. It has full support for WebSocket, and you can do a lot with them. From a lot of different languages. So the question then is like, okay, I want some protocol on top of WebSockets that allow, like RPC, like a you know, like a COM or Cobra kind of thing, like a object broker kind of thing. And in fact, I did this years ago. When many years ago, I was trying to do something like this. Not so much the WebSocket component, but this was built over XML RPC at the time. So where would I find this? This was years and years and years ago, but I called it Ensemble. I want to find. It might be probably in the Sabrin. Sabrin was my old company. It was a corporate account. There we go. Code. Ensemble. And yes, this is how old it was. I have it 17 years ago, and it was, you know, Perl. But the idea was that you would have I don't know. I feel like I was ahead of my time here a little bit. In many ways, what I was trying to do was something like microservices, but with kind of like with an object broker concept. I mean, not even necessarily an object broker, but the idea that you would have a reference to an endpoint in this API, and you could pass messages to whatever you were talking to, and then you would get a message back. So I guess that makes it an object, right? Even if it's a function call, right? So it's, you know, it's not that hard to do something like this, right? You got to have some central directory that says, okay, here's where everything lives. Here's my tree, and now you have clients or workers that connect to this tree, and then you say, I have some objects, and I want to mount this worker here, right? It's not hard to do this. All you have to do is have a protocol where people can pass data back and forth. That's not a big deal. It could be JSON data, right? It could be whatever, JSON RPC. I'm like, by now somebody has done this well, right? Whatever. This thing exists, but some, the idea would be to have this kind of like patchwork of applications that were all running at the same time, all communicating to the same, like one central application on your computer. Then you would be able to plug up, so say you've got your Godot server. So in my head, this project is called Miniron, right? So you got the Miniron server, and it has a user interface, and you can connect to it from outside and using a shell client, kind of like this. So you have an interface built in something like Godot, something small and compact and whatever, and that can nonetheless use shaders and generate whatever widgets you want. Not Electron, not a web browser, but something like that, something simple, but graphically very capable, that can then connect over this thing, and it would be able to control any other application that connected to it. So you would have like a little, basically the thing would, Miniron is minimal network environment, meaning that it's also kind of a play on the word Oberon, which is another very small like operating system that a single Niklaus Wirth created. But the idea being that you've got this system that can then connect to other systems and use each other as hardware, and so you can plug your Firefox into. There would be some kind of like component that acts like a Selenium driver or whatever for Firefox or Chrome or whatever, and then you would be able to connect it to this network that you're running, and then you would be able to just run. You would be able to script Firefox from your network. So it'd be like plug and play for Selenium. Selenium being like a driver for Firefox, but for everything. But for whatever you wanted to plug in. So then the same thing you'd be able to plug in like I keep going back to Smalltalk. One of these days I should really pull up like Glamorous or something. I don't know if I'm writing code today or just rambling. I just ran Glamorous. Where is it? Why is it not running? Oh, maybe my Glamorous install is screwed up, or maybe it's taking its time. So Glamorous is this toolkit. Kind of neat. It's on top of Smalltalk. It's a replacement for Pharo. Basically the graphics system. I don't know if you know what Pharo is, but anyway, it's got this nice, cool graphical toolkit. You can do really cool things in here. It's also got an amazing note-taking system. Maybe this is an old version. I don't see Lepeter. Lepeter is the note-taking system, but you got a full Smalltalk environment in here if you want. The old school Smalltalk doesn't look so pretty for whatever reason. But they've made their own. You get like a system browser, yeah. So Smalltalk or whatever. I don't know why the fonts don't look so nice here, but anyway, they have this is a very nice user interface model that they built over the old system, and you can do really, really cool things. Let's see if I got a demo or something here. So just like you run something and now you get a result. Well, that's probably going to be. This is whatever. I don't want to. Oh, I see. So this would cause it to download something. This is going to take a few minutes. Maybe there's a better example. Oh, and I've locked it up because I've downloaded this thing. Oh well. Anyway, so this is a whole other talk. I'll talk about this another time. Glamorous toolkit. Glamorous toolkit. It's like basically a language workbench for analyzing software. You can get all this. You click on, your snippet. You run your snippet. Now you can get a live object. You can interact with it in here, and now you can drill down, and it keeps expanding off to the right. It's really, really cool. And also it makes it really, really cool to really, really easy to generate these custom these little custom views. And so this becomes like it's like almost trivial to generate these things. Like it's ridiculous how easy it is to generate these things. And so you create these little widgets on the fly that act as a custom view for this kind of data you're making or whatever you're looking at. And so every object has like each one of these is a view, and so every class has like a zillion different ways to describe and display itself. And you almost don't need an application. You just have this like it just becomes like a shell for your application. It's really, really cool. And so I definitely want to I really enjoy using it. And but I haven't done much with it because all my code is not in Smalltalk, and they've actually made pretty good strides to use like to integrate with like JavaScript and Python and whatnot. I don't know. It's just really neat. But I keep thinking, yeah, I wish I'd like to use this, but I also want my tools to run on top of this. And so someday that I'll be using this more because it will be integrated with the stuff I want to do. Anyway, that's me rambling. But same thing, Emacs. I want this virtual machine to talk to Emacs, and so then all of this stuff can fit together. Maybe I should be able to write a tweet. Well, why not have some kind of service that tweets whatever, and talk to the web. All these things ought to be able to be integrated. And I just I'm certainly not the first person to have this kind of idea, and there are a zillion projects out there that allow you to mash stuff up together like this. But I have my own take on it. So all that is to say that this is where it's starting, right? Because I want this Godot front end to be the canvas. I pretty much chosen Godot as the canvas for these kinds of applications. Heck, even this thing. So this view tool, right? It's an amazing tool. It's written in Java, and it has not been maintained in quite some time, as far as I can tell. If you go to About View, go to view.tufts.edu. Oh, look at that. No, that's old. This here, like I don't think. Oh, it says copyright 2020, which is good. Yeah, latest release is 2015. Looks like somebody touched it in 2 months ago, but it's not under development anymore. And I thought about like taking over this thing because it's an amazing piece of software. I really like it. And I've got all these like view files lying around, and they're so it's a zoomable. Say that now I can't zoom. There you go. Zoom, and then you can like drag these things and put them inside of each other. So like a lot of like a lot of the same tools. Like if you had a lot of the same user interface concepts that you need for this. This is I want draggable rectangles in a timeline, right? You have this. You can take all your things. You can say, okay, arrange them as a circle or whatever. Not a circle. That didn't work very well, but arrange them as a table or arrange them as a column. And and then you can take all these things and stick them inside of something else. And, take this and stick it inside of this, and you get this kind of nesting thing, and then you can zoom into it. And then you can even make presentations with it. And so I love this tool, and but it's it's another little walled garden. It's this isn't scriptable as far as I know. And so I'd like to replace view. I'd like to be able to pull all my view files up into this Minoron thing and be able to have this be a scene that I can then incorporate, into something like this, where YouTube, but I mean the actual JPrez or whatever. I'd like to be able to mix these little text mode components with things like that, and it's like. Once upon a time, if you look back at like the Unix system, or you look at Oberon or whatever, I think I pulled it up in a recent video as well. Project Oberon. These old systems don't have the idea of applications. Unix was never the idea of an application is. In some ways user hostile, right? Smalltalk doesn't have application. I mean, you can definitely download a program, right? But the idea is that again, an application becomes a walled garden, meaning it is its own thing, right? But if, again, looking at Unix the way it was supposed to be, you have your shell, you have these little tiny applications. You have grep. All it does is it takes a stream of text from standard input and it matches. You've got a program like Unique, which takes the lines of input and it only outputs the ones that are unique, and the ones it hasn't seen before. You can reverse them. You can use something like sed to edit this, chop up the columns, rewrite a column or something like that. But then as soon as you walk away from that and you say, okay, I'm going to have an application, and that application is going to control the entire user interface, like it's you put a boundary around some things that don't necessarily need to have a boundary around them. I don't know. Like, to me, I think it makes more sense that you just have data out there. You have all your data, all your content, all your video clips or whatever, and then you have widgets that can display those and interact with those in different ways, and then you compose those widgets into a document, and that document becomes the application for through which you edit or interact with this thing. That your application just becomes another component in the system. I don't know if people like that, but it's a different model of computing, and I don't know that it would be successful or popular. But I think there's some interesting advantages to a model like that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling about this. I don't know if I've even gotten to anything around here. Basically I'm just trying to like get this clear in my head. What is it I want to do? And so I'm thinking that I really want to. Well, I certainly can say, start by just using this asciinema thing, and whenever I see there's an F9 input, so have it record the input. When it sees F9, meaning the button to play the macro, that becomes the divider, and then render that in Godot. Render a screenshot. So let's try write some code. I've done enough thinking, enough rambling. this is all about composition. Like how do I put all this together? And how do I do the part where I don't know yet. I'm not ready to do this ensemble thing. Where's my code? 6th dev. I'm probably gonna just like use this as it's not gonna be the exact same thing. Actually, I don't know why I put quotes around it. Sorry, I'm not writing code here. I don't know if I need this. This is kind of like, do I need this or not? Draw a line between these two. Little editor here for this. Make that the line be like bold or something. I think what I want to do is I want to make a series of like little experiments. Like, can I make draggable rectangles that arrange themselves in order so that they stay? Let's make these like demo, like milestone. Milestones components. So one of them would be to drag the arrange rectangle clips rectangles in timeline. One would be to render JPrez. Well, let's see. Render. Let's start by doing an asciinema JPrez recording. All right, so playback in Godot. So no live communication for that step. Just render it. Divide recording into clips with length. Okay. So then this will come towards the end. And then render clips, size to length. And then also, so as rectangles, right? And then add screenshot from Godot XTerm. We've already got this, but now being able to take a snapshot at any time at the start of the clip to make these little icons for each chunk of the timeline. Oh, actually, you know what? If you do that, if you record the well, I was going to say you could make the you could use that as your background. You can't do that. You can't. I don't think you can record the state of the terminal. So you have to record what's on the screen. I mean the GD extern. This thing doesn't have a button. I believe that allows you to. It doesn't have an API yet that allows you to get like the background color of this character. I think. I don't think it does. But JPrez does. So maybe in addition to again, you want to be able to click on a point in the timeline and get the So let's just write that. Click on have a generate terminal or reset terminal, set terminal to state a point in timeline. That's not hard on the J side. It might be hard. Well, I think that's when we start talking to J. Probably need to start. Probably need to talk to live J for this. And so that would be the point at which we had to implement WebSockets. And think through that, but we can get pretty far mocking up this user interface before we do that. Okay, so this is covered by what I was saying. Did I say that? No, I didn't say that. So drag and drop clips on timeline. Oh, I had it here. Okay, so this is what I was saying then. Although, do you really need to rearrange them? No. Okay, so, but you need to arrange audio clips. Arrange audio clips. So, right, so the idea is that, no, hang on, okay. So, so JPrez is going to record what it records, but you want to be able to freeze frame, freeze, adjust times in. You don't want to reorder them. You would never reorder them because you can do that in JPrez itself. But you want to adjust times, with mouse by resizing rectangles. Meaning that like freeze frame at end to leave time for text, or pause in middle of animation of macro animation. Macro animation is what I use to describe the term. Is the text is the name I use for the playback of the keyboard. Keyboard inside the. Okay. This program is weird in that it shrinks a node inside of a node, but it doesn't shrink text inside of a node. Kind of weird. All right, so now you can retime those things, and that changes how the animation plays out on the screen. And then you would hit a button to record. So record audio. And that would, and you want to record audio and link audio to text. So again, we're talking to JPrez. Again, talking to JPrez. Talking again, talk to JPrez. I mean, it doesn't have to talk to JPrez. It could import the text of it, but I think that I mean, so the alternative is you could press a button that okay. So I think that at any time you ought to be able to have the JPrez file hook Godot and tell it to sync up with the JPrez file. So have JPrez generate another asciinema recording of this thing with timestamps. As you adjust those timestamps, so this step, the adjusting the timestamps in the playback, that needs to be like, I mean, again, like basically every line in every line here should have a timestamp associated with it in the JPrez in JPrez's file. Every step in the timeline, or at least every paragraph, right? So this paragraph would correspond to an audio recording. This paragraph, this indicates a macro to play back some text. So that's this says question mark says go into insert mode, insert these 3 characters, go out of insert. Dot just indicates that it's a macro. And then this does not have a timestamp. This is just oh yeah, I guess it does because this is yeah, this serves 2 purposes. One, this is the indicator that however complicated your macro is, this is the line that shows you the line that should be produced at the end, and then the timestamp for it would be corresponding to when you hit the enter key. What's not shown here is the output, right? So JPrez does not cache your output. It's not like a Python notebook or a Jupyter notebook that caches your output. It only has the input, and then you get it keeps the output in memory, so it could do that. In fact, that's how it generates this on the screen. That's how the time travel works, so that you can you can go backwards in time and undo the output of a thing. So it's not running this every time. It ran it once, and now it knows what that is. So we certainly could include the output here, and then at any step in the time, at any step in the logical timeline, any line in the file, JPrez can now generate the contents of the terminal, and then so the what I'm talking about in this step is not is basically converting the timestamp in the line, the actual number, like the number of seconds, into a line number in here, and also maybe a line number plus an offset in time inside of a macro, if it's a macro line. All of which JPrez can do. So JPrez can. I'm not sure if it can do. You can't jump to the middle of a macro yet, but you can play the macro at warp speed. So you can actually do that. So if you go here, oops, sorry. Yeah, so if you go here, as you edit this, oh, that's screwed up. That's really screwy. I'm not sure what's happening there. I've got a bug, but I can. So no. All right, so if we go here, yeah, I don't know what would cause that bug, but basically you can jump around inside the macro, and you actually can do that. So wherever the cursor position here is, it tells you exactly where it is. So what we would need is something that calculates. So once you have the timestamp that tells you that you're on this line, you need to further, that this line is going to have a duration, and so you would find within that line, now where within the timeline, the sub timeline, where are you? So it's that piece does not exist. So map timestamp to JPrez line, and then map timestamp to offset within macro, with a JPrez macro. So those two things would have to be done to make this happen. So if you did those two things, then JPrez could tell you exactly what is on the screen at that time. And so what I'm thinking is that would just redraw the screen, and it would just send, again, talk over a WebSocket. You send it a timestamp, and it would send you back the entire text to redraw the screen from a blank screen inside this terminal thing. And you need a live J process because J is the interpreter, and so you either need a live J process or the file itself needs to record the output, the output. But as soon as you get into that point, this org file is probably not sufficient to make that happen. You want like a binary format or like a giant JSON file or something. You want to store data, not text. I don't want to parse that nonsense. I think that I kind of want. Oh, so then there's the question. Okay, so now you're recording other stuff that's not just in this text file. So this text file is like where you start, but I think that the actual JPrez file format now has to include. I mean, like, what do you do with the audio? Like, what do you do with the I'll need to think about, like, how do you store all this? Add node. How to store all this? How to store all this as a project, right? So we got like audio timings. We got the audio itself, which could just be, it could just be like a directory of, I don't know if you can hear my daughter screaming out there. My little 3-month-old. Itself, directory of WAV files. I'm wondering if my wife is downstairs and nobody's attending to that baby. Hang on. All right, I'll wrap up soon. Okay. Gotta find a balloon. Hang on. Okay, that's how it goes sometimes, right? Like I said, very small apartment. Okay, so how do you store all this as a project? Audio timings, audio itself, a directory of WAV files. But then, okay, so then there's the question, like, what do you do with this stuff? So the thought is that, the part of the reason for doing this in Godot is you add all this other stuff. So I can make like a Godot timeline that has all this, you know, magic stuff, like, but there could be any number. This is a very simple thing, but the idea is that there's a lot of things I want to animate, and I got to think about how basically how to integrate, how to integrate Godot animations and overlays. Animations in the console are easy because I can literally just record the ASCII and or the escape codes. So, let's see what the I'm watching. I'm watching the audio in. So it says my mic is not picking that up, but I'm hearing like a baby making a whole lot of like noises that sound like she's being tortured. She's not. She's just on the floor being silly. Anyway, oops. So, I'm gonna color code these. I like this thing because you can do like, where'd my little, oh, there it is. Style editor. I guess I changed the colors for this, for today's talk. And so this looks, my boxes now all look like the, I couldn't see it on the screen there for a second. I'd love for this thing to have like a, like there's no concept of a class. You can't say make all these mark this as being like a question and then have all the questions turn blue or something like that. You have to just select them. I don't know what color question ought to be, but whatever the style is for questions, that's pink, whatever. And this has a lot of nice features. It doesn't have that feature, but I'd love to I'd love to have like a brainstorming tool like this, like built, we're asking this question, but like, so even drawings and diagrams, have drawings and diagrams be part of presentation. How to have drawings and diagrams. Like that's something I definitely want to do. I often really wish I could do animated diagrams with the same logic as JPrez, where like, you record, the fact that ignoring what's in this thing, but like, you have some box and you're going to move it here, and then you're going to draw a line into, you're going to do this and add some other node and give it this name, and like you ought to be able to record that sequence of things. And that logic is exactly the same as what you have in JPrez, except not just in a console. Like it's a scene, right? So the console stuff was just the REPL interaction was just the simplest case of that. And then the thing that the next step was going to be the editor, and still is the editor, but a multi-line editor. But just as much, I'd like to see, I make diagrams, I make animations and that, and I'd like to be able to have a recording of graphical stuff. And once you do that, the file format I'm using to input these things no longer makes any sense. So it could be that this is the point where I switch to a database. I wonder if there's already, there's got to be like already a SQLite 3 for Godot. It does. And I wonder if you can also use it for I wonder if it also works in WASM. Interesting. that's an interesting logo. Oh, it does. Look at that. That's really nice. If it works. 3 months ago, it looks like it's up to date. I'm definitely going to have to take a look at this. I'm like, so, so the scope of what I want to do in my head is at the end of the day, I want the code to be very small, but the scope of what you can do with that small bit of the small pieces of components is large, and I don't know how to. There's a lot of stuff to write to make it small. A lot of work to be done in order to have it to allow it to be small. But part of that is, Godot has quite a bit of code in it for the widgets and whatnot. But conceptually, it's a single executable. It's very small. It's it's a small system, and it's easy to understand that system. SQLite is likewise very small and easy to understand. I imagine this is like you don't even like the SQLite SQL engine is written in C and it's very robust, and there's a SQL parser and all that stuff. But the actual like file format for SQLite is very simple. And you could, if what am I trying to say? Like, the relational algebra, it's, it can relational algebra period can be written in, a few lines of code. Like, it's not huge, especially in an array language like the ones I hope to use, and or the ones I do use, and the ones I hope to support on my virtual machine. And then in SQLite, the file format to get a relation, to get a table is very. I mean, it's not trivial, but it's a B tree, and there's like a there's basically a single encoding that kind of this variable length field. It's not hard. Like you could rewrite a SQLite file parser and extract a table from it. And I'm not going to pretend it's trivial, but it's elegant. It's well designed. It's simple. And then the work is, if you want to, the work is the magic that's built on top of it. The actual SQL parser and the execution engine and that kind of thing. But I think you could make a very simple SQLite compatible database system that used the exact same file format, but didn't necessarily support SQL, but just allowed you to use like raw relational algebra, and I think it would be very small. And that's something I've been thinking about for a long. Or even just to use it as like as a way to write persistent data structures in a very low level language that then you could potentially query with SQLite, and plug into it. So that's something I've been thinking a lot about. I don't know how far I'm going with that. but so my thought was, okay, so now could you treat this file format for the timeline as a relational database and use and use a SQLite file. Because without implementing anything, you know, on my part, you know, without implementing any of this low level stuff that I'm thinking about for the virtual machine, even just, you know, being able to plug in an off the shelf thing like this would be great. So then, and then you can just talk to it with SQL, right? Which is the whole point of using that format, you know, rather than writing my own. Right? You know, you want to be able to use the tools even if they're not even if they're not baked into the system. You want to be able to download them. You use that same file, and so a strict compatibility with SQLite would go along. So that's very tempting to think about. I'm gonna just add this to my little this link to my node. And then I probably I plan to work on this like right away, but like even later today, just in case, you know, for posterity. All right, so here, rather than call this, let's call this like the timeline plan. So that's just like the basic timeline widget where you're dragging things around. So we could say like add overlays, right? So very simple, like add overlays, a rectangle, or toggle overlays. And toggle overlays in timeline, and so multi-track time. This would be like the multi-track line keyframes. I think that's what I want. Right? And I don't think that's hard. It's not trivial. All these things, it's not trivial, but it's work, but it's not hard. This is garbage. Oh, you can't see this. This is render audio. I can move this whole thing. Let me move this back over here. All right, so arrange audio clips in timeline. Playback audio. All right, so we'll call it audio plan. I do want to record audio. Record, so record audio. I want to see. So I've got a couple different applications where I want to record some audio. One of them is this, but the other one is I wanted to make like a little text to speech kind of thing, so where I recorded some words, right? So vocabulary list, basically, like foreign language learning. So yeah, I'm trying to learn Punjabi. So me tori Punjabi bolda ha. I speak a little Punjabi. Me Punjabi sikhta ha. Me Punjabi sikhta reha ha. Me Punjabi sikhna reha ha. I am learning Punjabi. If I said that right. But the idea was I wanted to make some. I use flashcards, but I don't have audio flashcards. And a long time ago, I had something. I think I was studying like Loge Band or something. I don't necessarily. I've always liked language learning, and anyways, but not necessarily wanted to learn a language. I just like the idea of studying ways to learn languages and the pedagoggical aspects of it. But now I'm married to somebody who speaks Punjabi, so I want to actually become fluent. Anyway, but the point is, once upon a time, I made something where I recorded a bunch of vocabulary words, and I had this nice user interface. I think it was in like Python, where it would pop up a word on the screen. You'd press a button, and first I had the computer would sound it out for you, and so I recorded all the phonemes, and then the computer would stitch them together and make a to play the thing. But it sounds like a robot, because all the tones were the same. But you record each consonant, each vowel, and then if you want, you can record each pair, and then so on. And so you see, you could have it play a word and tell you what it sounded like. I don't know if you're hearing this. This is incredibly loud over there. So you could record the phonemes and stitch them together, and then it would tell you like what it should sound like. So a lot of times a word that you might pronounce one way in English would be pronounced a very different way in a different language, because it has different conventions for how the vowels work or whatever. Again, Lojban is like a constructed language, so it's got a very small number of words. I never succeeded in learning it, but like the letter C is pronounced sh, right? And so you see it, and you, as an English speaker, you think it means one thing, or whatever. Christ. Wow, baby. She's waiting for milk. Wife is bringing her milk, a little bottle. She does this all night too. She just recently started doing this. Like, just screams at the top of her lungs. I don't even know if you can hear it. If the mic, sometimes the mic doesn't pick things up that I hear. But that is really loud from where I'm at. Anyway, so yeah, so I wanted to do something like that for Punjabi, and not just for myself, but to be able to record audio for other people. I haven't tested whether you can record this on in the browser. I should try that. So where's the audio one? Scene project. Can I export this? Because if you did that, then I could give this to like my relatives in India or wherever, and have them record their way of saying the words and make a little website that collected this. I can send them the file or whatever, but it's nicer to send a web browser, something they can load in a web browser or something like that. Export, and then you have to add HTML5, right? Oh, that's cool. All right, so I guess that takes a while to download. I'll try that. Maybe in a little bit. Yeah, so let's go back to this. So the thought was, for this interface, I want to, so I need to fetch the words to record, or at least instruct JPrez to somehow position the cursor, decide which words to record, and then show a prompt. And so this is fetch the words to record. Somehow, either from JPrez or SQLite. So the other thing about using SQLite is, it gets rid of the need for a parser, and you can store a lot of things in. I can just see somebody reporting me to child services for, the baby sounds like her arm's being chopped off or something. He wants a milky, that's all. Wow. Anyway, yeah. So if I did this in SQLite, then it, I could just have JPrez talk directly to SQLite, and then have the Godot side talk, and they could just be completely separate applications, and have even JPrez could even store its the output from J. It's kind of nice, like if we store the output from J. And you stored it kind of like in this asciinema concept, where it's just you're just storing the escape codes for what shows up in the terminal. Then I think that you could do a lot with the editing without. Like, okay, so what I don't want to do is right now I'm using org mode for Emacs, and the text for this right here is this is actually stored in an org mode file, and if we say Emacs JPrez, what is this file? Drafts Mandelbrot. So Emacs gives you this like outline control, but it's just one big text file, right? And so everything you're seeing here is actually just plain text, colored by Emacs. And org mode has a lot of cool things you can do. Like there's a title here, and there's all these things. But because of that, you can put a lot of structure in an org mode file. I've got like a little bit of a parser, or I can parse. I parse this in J, right? Line by line, and then I load it into a data structure. Then I then serialize back to an org mode file. And it's not complicated. But what I don't want to do, and this is kind of like going back to the whole virtual machine ideas. I don't want to write a million org parsers. If I'm going to do this in Godot, I don't want to write a Dscript org parser. I don't even want to have to write like a single parser in Rust and then expose it to J and then expose it to Dscript. I would much rather either use to have all my parsing routines running on that virtual machine. That's the main thought. And then the other side of that is that to use a standardized file format or a ubiquitous universal file format like SQLite to store your data in, so you don't have to write a parser. So I don't even have to write a parser that runs on the virtual machine, because then I still have to do the step of writing the virtual machine for Dscript, and the virtual machine is not. The design is not finalized, and there's no file system aspect to it or anything like that. So, or access to the file system, or and even if there were, I would probably use I want SQLite to be part of that the ecosystem, or at least the SQLite binary format to be part of the ecosystem. So the native file format, but the native storage system for this tool would be SQLite. And I suppose that SQLite could even store the audio files and all that stuff. And so and the going back to the Miniron thing, like I have this whole concept of how to store version control, specifically for the kinds of things I'm talking about. There's already a version control system. Come on, my spammer's back. It's just annoying. All right, let's. Come on, spammer. Where are you, spammer? Hide user on this channel. Port. I don't know why they came back. Is it the same user? It is the same user. How did they come back? I don't know. Is anyone even watching this? That's my only user, isn't it? My only watcher. Yeah, no one's. Oh, someone's watching. Okay. Peak concurrent view is probably me and the spammer. That's okay. I don't expect people to watch. I don't know that I would want to watch, but it's it helps me to talk things out. So, okay, so we've got this. This is not terribly important, but let's try it. X15 project export 5 export project. Okay, did it do something? Temp Godot mic. On Windows. All right, we got that. And then if I say, oh, there's a WASM file in there. All right, so if we say, start this maybe. Made deck now something. If you can hear that, like talking in Punjabi. Yeah, I normally do this in the morning. File is not supported. Oh man, so I gotta. I think I have something set up to do like a really quick web server. So cd temp export path was temp Godot mic, and then node. I think it was simple server or something like that. Node npm install simple server, simple HTTP server. I thought this was already installed, but it wasn't app complete. Simple HTTP server. HTTP server. That's what it's called. Yeah. That's adorable. NPX HTTP server. That's what I was looking for. Okay. And then so then that loads it up on like localhost 8000 or something like that. 8080. And then now we load this audio mic record demo. This is Firefox. We don't know if it's going to work or not. Allow it to use? Yeah, sure. All right. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. That did not seem to work. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Okay, let's try it in Chrome. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Perfect. Okay, so yeah, so we could actually have this interface in the web. Which is interesting because I can certainly imagine there are some people that would want to be able to baby screaming again, but also I was just thinking, I don't know, maybe partner with Dscript or something like that. Have the recorded right in the tool, and then have shell out to or connect over the web to Dscript and have their API transcribe it for you or something like that. I don't know. That could be. You could become a product. I'm not really looking to turn this into a product, but it's definitely open source. This is an open source project, but it's interesting that the tools are there. It could be there seems to be sufficient tooling here within what I'm looking at to allow you to do this on the web, and then now you've got the chance to turn this into. And I guess you could, the same thing with Godot. When you can compile an exe file or an installable, even an Android app. You can do this from Android. You can do it from all over these different places, iOS, Mac, all these things. It's a really nice cross-platform development environment, and the fact that it also puts it on the web is really, really interesting. I mean, I would hate to do that. like to implement this in JavaScript is not pleasant. Yeah, there's all these audio APIs and stuff. This is just stick the component in your scene and hit record. I mean, that's awesome. Okay, so that's cool. And then you got the local, but the save wave file could just as easily be saved. Save it to save it to AWS or something like that. Web cloud storage. Okay, that's way down the line. That's not something I'm looking into right now, but that's very, very intriguing. What else I have here? So the audio plan so again we need. I wonder if I can make it so that So again, you I want to kind of follow like a I don't like the word microservices because it doesn't mean anything. But the basic idea of a microservice is that you break your application into very small chunks, and then you communicate between those chunks over a protocol. And generally, that protocol is like HTTP and maybe WebSockets, but it doesn't have to be, and it doesn't have to be a web application. And the same kind of concept, again, not new. Like Cobra and COM or Corba, Common Object Request Broker Architecture. Corba, not Cobra. Baby. The architecture for communicating between these different processes is very it's not hard. You basically need like a switchboard. You send your message to the switchboard, it goes to the right place, and it gets routed. It's just not hard. And you can add a networking layer. It doesn't seem to be. It's often used by very networky, like a enterprise level stuff, but you don't see it used too often for, I don't know, like web startups and that kind of stuff. But then I think microservices are kind of like a way to reinvent that. SOAP was a way to reinvent. SOAP is terrible as far as I'm concerned. SOAP is over engineered, right? Is an over engineered way to do that. It just XML, all the different, but conceptually it's simple. It's cool. Anyway, but so the thought is then that you do the same thing, but in a single process within a single process, or potentially within a single process, so that you can move those things out of the process. So, in other words, the fetch words to record either has to look at the SQLite file that or right now there's an org file. Eventually, I'm saying I'm going to switch to SQLite for storage, and then so in theory, you could just take that same SQLite file and just open it in Godot instead of in the console mode JPrez. At some point down the line, I could embed J. I could just embed J through the GD native thing, and then I don't need WebSockets at all. So that's another option. Although I want WebSockets because I do want to put this on the web and be able to talk to a backend. Like I would really like to be able to like let you like try J or something like that. You just go to a website and you'd be able to try J over a WebSocket talking to the. Although again, J could be compiled with WASM and run completely in your browser. So I don't know. I guess there's always different ways to do things. But regardless, there is a networking component in my wish list, right? So being able to use WebSockets is a good first step, since it's easy for both J and Godot to do that, and then the same thing can run on the web, the web front end, or the natively on the desktop, or even on an Android phone, which is very, very cool. So then the question is, okay, now how do I get the words to record? So how do I get access from Godot to the editor? And I feel like I would much rather have a protocol for controlling objects and send a message to the existing outliner object and say, okay, tell me what line you're looking at, and get back the text and then record the audio, and then say this is linked to that audio. This waveform is linked to that is linked to that line of text somehow, and then even if the two are on different machines, or you send the audio over the internet, I don't know. And it shouldn't matter, right? It shouldn't matter where the components are. And if I were just writing this as an application, like if my goal were to just make an application, obviously I probably wouldn't be thinking this way. But I'm definitely over engineering a little bit myself here for my immediate problem, because I know that I want to build this thing where I'm object broker, message broker, whatever it is. In fact, I've already got like a messaging queue system, like a thing. My company was again called Sabrin Enterprises Inc. SEI, and so I made a I forget what the S stands for, but I made a messaging queue, and it was called Seismic, SEISMQ. I forget what the second S stands for. Sabrin Enterprises Inc. something messaging queue, but it was all a SQLite message. Maybe I don't know. It was definitely using SQLite to store the messages, and then you could connect to it and fetch messages out of it. So I may already have this kind of like messaging protocol implemented somewhere. And then the addition would be to also pipe it over WebSockets if you so desired. I might have to look at that. Another look at code review Seismic. Review an ensemble. Probably I'm pretty sure that was using XML RPC, and I think maybe I would want a more simpler RPC interface. Probably I wanted like a binary interface, but there are a million to choose from. I probably don't need to invent one. Find a better binary RPC. Like Google has protocol buffers, but I'm not sure that's a RPC method. I know it's just like a generic KIPC is would be perfect for what I'm doing, right? It's got a wide variety of data types. It has the notion of basically KIPC is exactly what I'm looking for. KIPC messaging queue. Message style message format queue. So then the messages can go in the queue, or they can go over WebSockets. Queue send messages through queue or WebSocket. And you can. KIPC K is a programming language that I use at work, and then the IPC format is interesting because it's the exact same format they use, or almost exactly the same format they use when they record when you save K data structures to disk. Hey, sweetie, what? You need to get in here. Maybe she misses her daddy. Maybe she misses her daddy. You want to come sit with me?
I don't think so.
Well, she quieted down as soon as she saw me, right? She wants to be on TV. Say hi. Hi, YouTube. You green looking baby from the green screen.
Cutest baby.
You was making all that noise, screaming everywhere. Now you teach everybody how to use Godot, okay? You can make a video. Say hello. Oh, you want to? She just wants her dad. You heard your daddy talking. She wanted to come see what all the fuss was about. Let me put her in the swing.
You try that?
Yeah, put her in the swing next to me. Look how quiet she is. She heard me talking. She's usually sitting right next to me when I'm streaming it, so she wanted to be part of the stream. Where's her little, I'm just making this up. I don't know that that's true. I can't read that baby's mind. On your bottle? No? You just want to sit there? Okay. All right, Des. Problem solved. Yeah, let's look up seismic. GitHub. That's again under the Sabrin repository. Nope. Probably in that same six. Oh, did I not spell? Oh, it's under 6dev. Seismic. Okay. Yeah, so you'd open this file, and then you could store things in a. You would just open the SQLite file and be able to fetch it out of there. So, but the actual seismic. maybe the S stands for the apostrophe S. That's funny. What language is this? This module provides simple messaging queue based on SQLite. Opening the queue. Are simple strings for now. Okay, so they're just strings. And but again, there's like a billion messaging protocols. It could be KIPC, it could be anything, something like that. But you want to send it like an arbitrary message. So then using that in SQLite is nice because you can do it once you know that you have these that you're going to be working with different nodes. Especially when it's on the desktop, you may not necessarily have them all running at the same time. But if you have, it would be as if you had like different pieces of hardware that you're turning on and off. And the messages can just queue up. So it kind of makes sense to have or again, you're working on your phone and you want to send a message to the server. So then when or a peer, when the network comes back online, you can have that message in your queue and you can send it. And then the same protocol would just happen live when you are connected to the internet. And then the same protocol could also happen within the process if you don't need to talk to the internet. And that way, again, you have the ability to migrate chunks of functionality between, from a process to from within a process to a secondary process or to another machine or whatever like that. And again, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but like, I'll probably take a simplified version of some standard out there, or at the very least, provide an adapter so that whatever the internal format I use for IPC becomes the messaging format, but then you can switch it to 0MQ or whatever to talk to the outside world. Okay, so that's definitely interesting to me anyway. Usually my spec directory contained tests, so I think this is actually very, very simple. Like this is probably not even worth, like it's probably just a table with a queue, yeah. ID, queue, message, that's it. And you want, that's all it is. Like it's ridiculously simple. It's a single table, and then you stick a record in, and then you take the record out when you want to execute it, or when you want to claim it or whatever. Okay. So, hey, baby. Now she wants milkies. Oh. She's trying to climb out of her chair. What you want? Let me get you a milk. Hey, something.
Hi.
What you need?
Ice
she's fine. You go, sweetie. You go. Okay, you go. Yeah, I might, it might be time for a break here. Hey, you. Hey, you. What? What you want? What do you want?
Hi, Dad.
Yeah, she's screaming.
I didn't hear her.
I don't know, she was trying to climb out of the chair.
Turn this off. I got her. She's just having a she hasn't pooped.
Okay. You heard it here first, folks. Okay. Babies are gross. They're adorable, but they are gross. Okay. Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of thinking about architecting this kind of like switchboard kind of system for message passing for my virtual machine and just use this as the basic idea. You use this as a prototype, and I mean this probably is as simple as JSON, like whatever JSON RPC is, something simple like that. Take it and go over the. I mean, so basically, you have to have a directory of the objects that are alive or the functions, the endpoints of your API, right? Like whether they're live objects that you pass methods to, or the some kind of RESTful interface where you have a resource and you pass the path to that resource, and then you can either fetch it or amend it or whatever, get and post on a URL. I got to put some design work into that. The RESTful, people hear REST and they think it's JSON, right? JSON over HTTP. It has nothing to do with JSON, nothing to do with HTTP. It has to do with the way you arrange your resources, I guess, and you arrange your namespace and that kind of thing. And that's what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna have to look at that, but I feel like I'm like for now I just do the simplest thing that can possibly work with the intent of like migrating towards that later. So the basic idea needs to be that basically just write it so that it's asynchronous, so that you don't know that when you're going to get the results back. I think that's sufficient to write it as if it's an asynchronous thing. Meaning that you send a request and then later you get a response back, but not within a single function call. That it may in fact be several frames, frames of the system, the animation frames, Godot event loop frames before you get the result back, because it's going over the network and coming back over the network. So that means the fetching the words to record, when you make the decision that you want to record a new word, or that you're going to prompt the speaker to have a new word. Well, it depends on how it is. So if it's going to be a prompt, then like for if I'm doing vocabulary building, then we want to prompt. You want to show the next word and so on. But if it's video editing here, which is what I'm supposed to be talking about right now, you want to see the list of you want to see the script, this script. Sorry, not the script. This script, but in like this context, you want to see these lines that are meant to be read, and then what you want to you want to be able to press a button and say I want to record that, or I want to play it. I want to play what I currently have, and then I want to make a different draft of it. So then within that, I wonder if there's like a Godot already. Somebody's already done the work of making an audio waveform editor. Godot. It's not hard. Oh, look at that. Somebody, I wonder if that's open source. Oh, in fact, Godot itself does have an audio visualizer, but I wonder if you can put that in the Oh, look at that. All right, well, that's something to look at. Yeah, like this kind of thing. Because often what you want to do is you want to record the you want to highlight this and you know, delete the white space within the audio, or like you might read it and then like miss a word. You don't want to have to rewrite. You don't want to have to re-record an entire paragraph because you missed one word. You want to just correct it in real time and then edit that word out. So I guess that's really something that I need here. Ideally, I would not implement that by hand. So like connect to some kind of audio editor. Audio editor. Oh, in fact, I was going to say, I got distracted, but I was going to say that you know, the one place where you actually do see this in open source software and kind of like user level software is in audio recording, because they have these audio buses. You know, basically they're protocols that allow you to have all your different audio systems talk to each other, and you can write these programs that talk to. I don't know what the protocols are called, but like I know, I think Jack is one of them on Linux, and then there's I don't even know, but just they're like standard audio systems that you connect to them, and you can run, you know, pipe different programs together, and like this is, it works works really well even with live audio, which is, you know, audio samples, to be able to do it in real time. You know, it's got to be very, very, very fast, or you'll hear it. And it's no problem at all to do that in real time on a computer. And there's like a whole ecosystem of things that do that already. So I think that's not controversial. It's just a matter of like, you know, deciding how you're going to plug into these things and doing it well. Okay, I think I've kind of talked myself out here. Let me see what I got. What I'm looking at here. What we've got. Just want to get it all on the screen here. And there's a baby again. Hey, sweetie. I'll maybe move myself. Ah, whoops. Okay, so as far as how to store all this, I'm definitely leaning towards SQLite, how to integrate Godot animations and overlays. I don't really know, but I guess I expect that at the very least we're going to have the ability to. I do know this. You know, whatever I come up with, whatever format I come with, the output can be a Godot animation, and so there can be a step in the timeline that triggers any kind of Godot any kind of event, any kind of function or whatever in Godot. You can just have it emit a signal or whatever, and then Godot can do that. how to have drawings, diagrams, same thing. So they'll just be part of the Godot scene, and then the player for this would be player would be a component, a widget inside the Godot scene, a node in the Godot scene. And in fact, I think that all of this could be, like all the editing stuff, I'm kind of leaning towards this idea of having the editing stuff just be live tools. So when you mark you can mark any object in Godot as a tool, and that becomes a live, it becomes active at editing time. And then how the hell does this guy keep coming back? That's so frustrating. This does not happen on Twitch. Where's my... So freaking annoying. YouTube.com. Where's my... So freaking annoying. They just make new users all the time. So freaking annoying. Can we make... They just make new users all the time. So freaking annoying. Can we make... So frigging annoying, man. Yeah, I don't... Man. So annoying. Oh, now you're probably hearing this too, right? This is playing, right? Okay, it doesn't matter if nobody's watching, but it's annoying to me. It's distracting to me, and whatever. Maybe I'll go back to Twitch. All right, so this is all website important. I do want to start writing some code very, very soon, like maybe even today. But I think this stream has gone on long enough, and I just for editing purposes, this may never see the light of day. It's all just like behind the scenes stuff, whereas the actual implementation probably be more interesting to people, and probably be more worth sharing. Am I done here? Connect to audio to editor. Connect to audio editor, yeah. I mean, you know, that could be as simple as like launching. I have an old copy of Audacity. I know that Audacity has been purchased by somebody that has turned it into an unpleasant product to use. But something like Audacity can just pop up, or one of the open source forks of Audacity could be used. I mean, it's not that hard to, you know, you to draw the waveform and then just, you know, select part of the waveform. Yeah, you know, the Squeak has a, you know, Squeak had that from like day one, right? Was to have the audio waveform, and you know, maybe I'll play with the whole, you know, connection thing and actually stick it in Squeak or something like that. We'll see. Or just write my own. You know, do it in J. You know, it's not that hard. You just need to. Like, all I really want to be able to do is select things and then delete them. So it's just a plot of you know, samples, scales, and then you. I want to be able to drag a mouse over it, highlight a certain area, press delete, or even possibly, you know, like in the example I recorded, there was like I hit record. I paused for like 2 seconds like this, and then I said something. I said "Hello world" or whatever, and then I stopped the recording, and it's not hard to strip that out. You know, just that shouldn't be hard to delete the pause on either side of the word. I'll automatically detect the sound. And okay, so you know, I said it's hard to do text to speech, but or you know, it's you know, Dscript does this magic thing where it, you know, it can identify each word, and that requires some amount of like machine learning and AI kind of stuff. To know that this waveform represents or between or whatever. But you know, if you're reading it, you know, and if you have a pause between words, it's possible that you could just detect the pause between the words and make a pretty decent guess what the what the words are, and then like, I mean, the speech recognition isn't. I always say it's not that hard, but I'm not going to do that now. But like, I mean, you know, it just like, it probably isn't that hard to at least tokenize by you know, cutting on the spaces, the small spaces in between words. When you're speaking, the words don't necessarily have breaks in between them. We think of them as having breaks in between them, but it, you know, it's often one continuous waveform. As words run together, you don't say as words run together. Even even when you slow it down, you know, it's not obvious that where the breaks are between words. Except it kind of is, because I mean, if you look at the waveform, this is so not important. But if you look at the waveform for a single word, you know, like as you zoom in, you know, there are breaks. So, you know, when you say this, it says between each table. Well, you can see that's between, that's each, and that's table. So that's the t. And then the ah, and so the vowel sounds are the, you know, are the loudest, and the rest of these are consonants. And it's not hard to. I don't know. It might be hard to see, like, you know, that this is all one word and this is not a word. I don't know, but like there is a little bit of a pause. I think this is, you can at least detect syllables, and then you could cross-reference with the. It's because you know what the words are. Like in this application, you're reading from a script. So the act of taking what you know the words are going to be, looking them up in a dictionary to figure out how many syllables they have, with the the caveat that there could be what do you call it, when two words have the same spelling but different pronunciations. It's not homophone, but I forget what the word is. Two words that are spelled the same but have different pronunciations. Read read and read, or read and read, right? Or lead and lead. They homophones would be two words that have the same sound but spelled differently. Like there and there, they are and they're they are this, and their dog is two, two and two kind of thing. I forget what the word is. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So this is one distraction after another is my life, partially because I have ADHD, but also partially because of the environment I'm in. Whoa. Okay, and also because, yeah. So I try not to think too much about things. I'll have a session like this, and I try to just put my head down and code for a long time. Break it into little pieces, and then just when I sit down next time, I'll just do this and not think about the larger context, because that never ends. Which is why I keep asking myself, am I done here, right? Am I done here? Is connect to audio editor? I don't know how to do that yet, but connect to audio editor or make an audio editor. That's a project for another day. It's not hard to do that. Firing up Audacity is not hard. Firing up, like this should just not be hard. To plug in an existing off-the-shelf audio editor, even from Godot, I don't think that's hard. I'm just going to do that for now. Fire up off-the-shelf editor. There's some way to do this, no question. And then I can talk about implementing my own when I have time someday in the future. Or really, I'll probably look at the one from Squeak because it seems nice and simple, and maybe port that to my VM or connect to. If I get the connection working, then that would be the off-the-shelf editor, right? But we'll see. All right, so then using this thing, am I able to now solve my problem of synchronizing the audio with the video? Yes, because the video is in a timeline, the audio is in another track of the timeline, so I can drag those around because it says here that I can drag the audio clips in the timeline. Am I able to export this? I don't have anything that would render it to a scene, but that would render it to a video, except I can just play the animation. So again, this would all be design time. Get it all ready. Actually, design time. Then I can use the Godot animation tools interchangeably with the with my own tools, and so then I can that has a lot of like answers to these problems. I know how to display the text. I know how to generate a cast file. I just write the J code to do that. I know how to break the cast. I don't know if it's on the screen here somewhere, but yeah, divide the recording into clips with length. I know how to do that. So I can definitely take a JPrez presentation. I don't necessarily know how to get the stuff back into into JPrez unless I switch to SQLite, and then it's easy because I either just send the message. Well, it's all about the storage format, right? Like I know it's not hard to do. It's not hard to associate the two things in memory. It's how do you keep them associated when you save the file. I think SQLite is probably my answer there. All right, so then we got it. That needs to be move to SQLite. Move to SQLite. Move storage to SQLite. So a JPrez file will now be a SQLite file. Maybe import, definitely import from org. I don't think I want to give up the org file format, but because I like having that, but then the ability to annotate it with a SQLite file would be nice, or to upgrade it to a SQLite file would be nice. We'll see. We'll experiment. Yeah, I can write my animation. I can render it in Godot. I can use the animation tools to. I mean, I guess that in that case, instead of writing my own, instead of writing my own timeline, or if I write my own timeline, it will be a tool, an edit time tool. But it could also just be like notes in the. I don't know how the audio works in that. I know the Godot timeline animation timeline can include audio. I don't know how it works. Wow, baby. And I don't know if it's really intended to be used for something as long as a video. My video is going to be 18 minutes. You probably don't want to do 18 minutes of video editing in the Godot timeline. Because it's meant for like short animations. Could be, you could use it anyway, but it's not meant for that. But even then, regardless of like if I make my own little, it shouldn't be hard to arrange my own timeline like that, and then that timeline would be would just generate the animation at runtime. It would generate an animation object that could then be run at runtime, just like the Godot's animation does. Poor baby. Poor baby. She has a little tummy ache, I think. Record audio. Seismic is just for communication stuff. That's not. I think I'm done. I probably left some stuff out. There's a lot of details to fill in, but I'm not. I don't feel like I'm being more productive now. I feel like I've worked through this and cleared my head, or clear enough in my head to start working, or to start organizing this into specific tasks and whatnot, which I may or may not do later today. So thanks for watching.